Hello everyone and welcome back to Always Watching. Today we're discussing the season finale of The Last of Us. I don't really know what to say. My hopes died in that ocean. Like, Lord have mercy. That was one of the most preposterous endings I think I've ever seen. This whole season has felt very chaotic and incoherent. Because the show spent a lot of time trying to be loyal to the game, I felt like the writers had tunnel vision. When you're a gamer, you spend a lot of time in this world. And it feels like the gameplay might have made up for the story, and so maybe gamers didn't mind as much. But as a normie watching, I'm like, what is going on here? They spent the entirety of season 2 building up Ellie's character, and I've never cared about anyone less. I think Abby's character offered a rare opportunity to expand in this world, and I almost wish the season had started from the perspective of the Fireflies and having Abby find her father in the operating room. That would have been a spectacular start to the series, and then we kind of work our way backwards to Jackson. And then the finale is Joel dying and Ellie seeing him die and having those final words of "I'll kill you." Instead, we just got a chaotic mess. I think if I had to put myself in the writer's shoes, they spent a lot of time building Ellie's character, and maybe they felt bad disowning her in a way. But from what I've seen, Ellie's purpose has been served. There is no cure. Her immunity really doesn't matter. It matters insofar as it keeps her alive. And so beyond that, her story has wrapped up. She's with Joel now. And I think this whole storyline with Abby, again, there was a lot to unpack here. Whether or not Joel killed her father, this man still killed a hospital full of people. I mean, cause and effect. What made season 1 so iconic is because it put us in Joel's shoes. We understood exactly why he did what he did. We felt bad for the world, but this idea of doing anything to save a loved one is something everyone can relate to. And this kind of conflict, I mean, we really felt it as an audience. And I think season 2 could have given us that same nuance. And I actually think watching Isaac this episode, he would have made a fantastic substitute for Pedro Pascal's Joel, because Abby and Isaac seem to have this mentor-mentee relationship. It's kind of teased in this episode, but because we haven't seen Isaac in so long, we're not really sure what that entails. But maybe following them around and then having this world, this Last of Us world, really expanded on would have made for a fantastic season. I think Abby and her crew, as well as the WLF, would be more motivated to take out Joel. And a huge theme in this show is like community and tribes, and having Jackson involved in this bigger war, I think would have been really spectacular. And I think that's the other thing about this season, why it felt so chaotic. They spent a lot of time building Jackson and introducing us to Jesse and all these people, and they did nothing with them. I would have loved to get to the end of season 2 and feel as conflicted as I did in season 1. I think Abby killing Joel rubbed people the wrong way because it came out of nowhere, especially if you're not a gamer, and we just felt angry. We understood on paper why she did what she did, but I felt nothing. I just felt like, okay, I get it, but I really don't care. And I think the show tries so hard to parallel Abby and Ellie, but it does so in such a literal and lazy kind of way. I think they could have built Abby's character through this war, through her relationship with Isaac, through her relationship to her friends and these people that she works with. I thought watching members of Abby's crew die, I don't know who these people were. Again, if you played the game, you probably spent a lot more time with them. But as a viewer, I was just like, I don't know who these people are. I don't know who I'm supposed to feel bad for. And worse, I didn't feel bad for Ellie. Ellie's character... We'll get to it. We are literally put in the middle of this war between the WLF and the Scars. And in season 1, every episode was a different adventure. And so it hit a lot differently. In season 2, you have one main conflict. And because we don't spend a lot of time with this conflict, the show teases us what the Scars are and what the WLF is, but we never really feel it because we don't spend a lot of time. We get these fantastic shots of the Scars killing people, of the WLF killing people, and you do get the sense that this is a very, very violent war, but you're not really emotionally invested because we don't really spend any time with them. I think that's another point where the show failed, Because with the WLF and the scars, it seems like they both have some legitimacy. And I would have loved as an audience to feel for both sides. Instead, I just feel indifferent. And I think if you're not familiar with the game, a lot of what was going on this episode might have gone over your head. We are reintroduced to Isaac and his team, and Isaac is looking for Abby. And from what we gather, Abby is in line to really take over, and like he's kind of trained her to be in charge. And I think there's a lot to unpack with Abby's character. It's kind of teased that she's had relationships with older men. I don't know, maybe that was just me. Because the lady sitting in front of him was like, oh, well, this isn't the first time. And I'm like, the first time for what? And Jeffrey Wright was just, I felt like he was totally wasted. Abby's absence this season makes it so that we don't really care. And again, had the season started off at the hospital with Abby finding her father, I think the audience could have felt a lot differently. But the way we were introduced to Abby killing our favorite character, and we don't, like, it just felt like a random person that killed Joel. So the last person we want to see as an audience is Abby. And the way the show has tried to build Abby's character, I feel doesn't really make any sense. They tried to parallel her with Ellie. When you think about Tommy and how Joel was looking for him, starting from episode 1, even before we met Tommy, we felt very attached to him. With Abby, we don't really feel anything because we don't get much. We don't even hear about her. There's really no rumors. There's just nothing. And I think the other issue with Abby's character, I mean, the show does this very lazy job by validating Abby's actions. Again, on paper, what Abby did makes sense, but it still felt really wrong. I thought the scene of Ellie finally telling Dina is pretty much how the audience felt. Let's go home. Like, this is canceled. And Dina's reaction was pretty much expected. As much as she loved Joel, he pretty much had it coming. I really liked that Jesse and Dina were fed up. And Jesse's presence this episode, he was like a much needed energy boost. I thought the scene with Jesse and Ellie when they were watching the scars and the WLF was one of the most perplexing scenes. The idea that Ellie was going to intervene and the way that she was trying to intervene with such purpose actually made me laugh. I was like, what are we doing? And there's so many inconsistencies with Ellie's character. I didn't understand why she was so concerned for this young boy, but not Abby's father. In addition, again, we don't get much of the WLF and the scars, but this is a terrifying world. There are severe consequences to your actions. Like, doing the right thing in this world is staying alive and keeping the people around you alive. And so her audacity is just really cringe and strange. And I think a lot of the show's anger is misdirected at Ellie. Like, this has nothing to do with Ellie. The show is just very disjointed and very inconsistent with its character development. Ellie is trying her best to maintain this idea of herself as a good person. And my thing with Ellie's character is that it feels like they haven't decided what they want her to be. 1 minute she's trying to save a kid, the next minute she's shooting aimlessly at a pregnant lady and this man. And I feel like her reactions are so erratic. And because of the way these scenes are set up and because of the way the show has been building, it's hard for us to really connect with Ellie. Like, I would have loved to feel Ellie's internal struggle. For example, if we remember Joel with the fireflies at the end, you could see it in his face. He was in pain doing that. Like, he knew this was not the right thing to do, but he had no choice. Like, when he killed Marlene, I mean, the way he was able to kind of exude that, and I think the show itself was so well written in season 1 that it allowed him that opportunity to showcase that. But because the show is so disjointed and it feels very up and down, Ellie's character is very frustrating because you're like, do you want to get revenge or not? Also, Ellie's sense of urgency doesn't really make any sense. Like, is Abby leaving? Are they going somewhere? Like, you can come back. I thought her conversation with Jesse prior to going on the island, and we'll talk about that crazy boat ride, was so preposterous. The way she talked to Jesse just felt very entitled. And I like what Jesse said. The only person she thinks about is herself. And this whole thing about tribe and loyalty, it makes sense in the context of Abby, not in this context, because Jesse is loyal to Jackson, and they've kind of made that clear with his character. Like, this is a man that's very much trying to build a society, and he's really trying to expand on that. And getting revenge for this guy, getting revenge for Joel actually puts him at great risk. And that moment when he tells her good luck or something along those lines, I'm not even going to lie, I said, good job. leave. And Ellie, everything Ellie does is for herself. I mean, she knew Dina was pregnant. She doesn't tell her that, hey, this is the reason I'm getting revenge, or this is the reason why Abby came. And she kind of puts all these people in unnecessary risk. And what's worse is his own brother is not willing to take that risk. And so it feels like the motivations are weak. Like, I think Joel's storyline and with the Fireflies, that wrapped up. And I think season 2 should have been, what was the effect of that? I thought the scene with Ellie in the boat, I don't have any words. I mean, Tom Cruise couldn't survive those waves. I was like, what am I looking at? Like, there's no way her little behind could have survived that ocean. Thinking about it actually makes me laugh. Like, I was actually at a loss for words. And they keep trying to make Ellie this very strong, like, action hero type person, but she doesn't have the physicality for it. And the physicality does matter when it comes to character. So if the character doesn't have the physicality to do this, you can give them a tribe or a community. Like, that's kind of the whole point. That's what I assume the point of Wyoming was. That's what I assume the point of the WLF was. To kind of give these characters like an army or a shield. Instead, you got little old Ellie here fighting the elements. And this was where I think I really had to think about whether or not I'm going to watch season 3. I thought the fact that a child ended up being her undoing was a little bit on the nose. I'm like, okay, first of all, she's in the middle of this war. She's already gotten a glimpse of how violent these people are. And the thing about Ellie is you're almost just waiting for her to die at this point. Like, there's no tension. You're like, oh, you're still alive. When she finally gets to Abby's crew, this whole thing was really frustrating because when she ends up shooting this pregnant lady and Owen, and these are characters that were introduced to us in episode 1. And I really thought that we were going to get a lot more of them. Instead, they just die. And the thing is, the way these characters are dying, it's very frustrating because you're like, I don't know why I should care. I thought Jesse's death was shocking, again, not in a good way. We were just warming up to him, and they just took him out like that. And I get that this is an apocalypse and people can die, but there has to be some sense. And then you see Tommy on the ground. And honestly, in that moment, as someone who's not a gamer, I was like, just end this. It's canceled. Cliffhanger for me was so weak. I mean, I really don't care if Ellie lives or dies. I was fed up by the end. And then we cut away to Abby. And the flashback with Abby, it feels very disjointed because Joel is dead. There's nothing to really work towards. And so I guess we're getting these moments prior to whatever happened with Ellie. And I'm not really sure what they plan on doing with the flashbacks. Because if they plan on expanding on this world and really delving deep into the WLF and the scars, then maybe. But if the whole season is just going to be Abby spending time with her dad and trying to show us that she's a good person, I'm not going to lie. Like, that's going to be very cringe. And I think with Abby and Ellie, there are other ways to build character. I don't need to meet Abby's father to know he was a good person. And I'm very torn about this season because everything I've read so far, apparently they are sticking very close to the game. And you can't really make everyone happy. I mean, if they didn't stick to the game, then people would be angry that they didn't stick to the game. But as a viewer, I felt this episode was all over the place. I think the production value is incredibly high. I think the attention to detail on this show is honestly breathtaking. Like, this show is worth watching just to look at, but nothing makes up for a disjointed and chaotic plot. And the story isn't even that bad. It's just they've kind of minimized the parts that are interesting, and they really, really focused on Ellie. And I get it. They spent all of season 1 on Ellie, and maybe they felt bad cutting away to Abby. And I think the writers really assumed that maybe the audience would get used to Ellie. But I have never seen a show try so hard to build up a character and fail. Like, at the end, Ellie actually became more unbearable. And this is really a testament to how terrible the writing is. And so with season 3, I don't know. Again, if the whole season is us trying to parallel Abby with Ellie, I think it's going to be a waste of time. I think it's not going to make any sense. I think this whole community, this whole potential for a bigger world, I think this whole potential to expand this world kind of failed. Because Tommy's on the ground, Jesse's dead, I don't know what the point of Jackson was at this point. Like, that's gone. There was even the infected. I mean, they could have put in some infected in this episode, like, to try and energize it. But, oh, Lord, guys, that was, I don't know. Gamers, let me know. But as a viewer, I'm just like, there's just too much going on here. And I don't care about any of it. And so you guys let me know what you think. And until next time.